What's raging, gamers? Welcome to Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. How you doing, HenricK the Wreck?
You know me. It's a Wednesday. We're here. We're raging. Let's talk about some games.
Yeah, let's set it off, baby, because we got so much to discuss. This is a jam-packed episode, but we always like to start off the show with a bang and show you guys a lot of viral content that is circulating all across the World Wide Web. Of course, with all things video gaming. So let's get it. Gen Z will never know the glory days of LAN parties playing Halo marathons or blowing $15 an hour at a gaming hub to play Counter-Strike with your squad. And nowadays, gamers will do whatever it takes to unite the crew, whether it's in the trenches or hold up in bunkers.
Hey, you know, at least they're playing together, right?
Okay.
It can be difficult to make that happen.
I guess the realistic question is, if you know, obviously you can't say you can game somewhere else, but where would you prefer to be? Would you have to be at the bottom? Would you be at the top? Would it be in the middle?
You know, maybe being at the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably the most optimal spot.
Yeah, well, but then again, if you said the bottom, and then I would have been like, wow, HenricK, you're actually committed to the game. So clearly you're not, okay? Got to give that man some respect. So the first comment that we got here is, why the guy with the hard hat at the top, though?
That's a good question. He should be at the bottom because he has that hat.
Yeah, where's the noggin at? Imagine being the random fifth. I only counted 4 people. Where's the fifth guy at?
They're somewhere in there, I guess.
But then the guy goes, I didn't even see the guy at the bottom until the end of the video, WTF. So maybe he was actually in the box. Did you see that towards the bottom?
I didn't even see that, yeah.
Maybe that's where the fifth member is. Or could you imagine you're gaming with these guys and then you're just that random fifth member that's tagging along and you're like, why is it so loud? Why am I hearing, the annoying feeling where it's like, whose TV is too damn loud? I can hear everybody's voice coming through the microphone. It's like, no, we're all gaming together.
Yeah.
Bunker down in the trenches. No, you gotta love it. But there was another video that was going viral with the gamer sharing footage of his house fire's aftermath, only to discover that his PS5 survived the flames from as though it was built from vibranium. I mean, forget fire safety. This console's durability deserves its own ad campaign.
I think Sony would take that clip and maybe want to make a ad about that for sure. Be like, hey, invest in this. It'll stay around.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I feel like something with that kind of style of video, maybe Sony, if you're seeing this, it has been going viral. Get the kid a new PS5. I mean, everybody's going through some hard times right now, especially, the surrounding area of the SoCal fires. But we do not know if that came from that particular fire. But again, it's just horrible to lose anything. But then we get comments like, it learned how to survive heat from the PS4. I mean, yeah. I mean, it sounds like a jet engine.
Yeah,
I mean, still running strong.
If the PS5 is built any better than the PS4, that kind of shows how long those might last for people.
Yeah.
Because we've seen PS4s that it's like, it needs to be taken out of commission. It's just barely hanging on.
Yeah, but then there's other people that say it's not the PS4. I bet the house fire caused by an Xbox. And then you got another one that says no one's mentioning that Game Boy that was blown up in a war and still turned on. Yeah, I mean,
That's
I think
true.
Could you imagine if it's 2,000 years from now? You discover a PS5 that is what's going to be considered the ancient relic. It's still on. Was it always supposed to look like this? We will never know. But you know what? I was kind of late to this game. I know it's still, thriving strong even amongst the community, especially thanks to Amazon Prime's Fallout TV series. But once you step out of the Vault 76 in Fallout 76, the world is your canvas, and building camps bring out gamers' creative flair, from cozy cabins to the wild fortresses. But some players kind of take things so far that you kind of have to wonder, is it safe to peek?
What fresh hell is this?
I just can't shake these nightmares.
Jesus Christ. Of course I'm gonna go. I have to go. Yeah, that's fair. I deserve this. This is on me. Yep. I'm a piece of shit. Oh, what is this? You have 2 choices. Lots of caps. Broke bitches. Oh, I'm a broke bitch, so let's see what we got here. Fuck you. Yep. Alright, let's see what the rich people get. Oh. Okay. Jesus Christ, no. Not the quotes. Not the quotes. Oh my God. Consensual quotes. That's just wrong. Is that a priest?
Leave it to gamers to come up with something like this in a Fallout game, right?
It's so crazy. I mean, we always laugh when we see even a lot of these kind of crazy stuff show up in like kid-friendly games like Roblox. I mean, to be fair, this is a mature game after all, but like, where does your mind go sometimes? You just have to ask. But then the one guy goes, "Is that a priest?" Yeah, that was kind of wild.
Oh, no.
Very, very wild ad to the Epstein Island. The next one we got is governments be like, oh gosh.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow. Too soon. And then I miss 76 sometimes, laughing my ass out. Yeah,
I mean, it's still there. What do you mean?
Yeah, but I feel like it's that thing where, you know, a lot of those Fallout gamers will say, you know, the hype was real on day one, even though it got really clowned upon because it wasn't the Fallout game most of us wanted. But then you kind of join in a little late. It just kind of comes across a bit odd, and I totally understand that. But hey, we want to take a moment during this show to let you guys know, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channels, this is my QR code. Like, share, subscribe, so you never miss a live show. Hitting the notification bell is your best option.
Yeah, and that QR code on your screen right there, that goes to my YouTube channel, so go scan that right there. You'll find great content there. I make all sorts of videos, so go leave a comment and let me know.
Yeah, we definitely love it. We've been hearing from you guys. A lot of your comments over the last week are going to be further fueled throughout today's show. I know a lot of people are coming after me. I love it. But then again, what time is it, HenricK the Wreck? I think it's time to rock and roll, right?
Oh, yeah.
As they should. I heard that. Well,
it's time to talk about a game. So let's get started by talking about a game, all right? It's pause repeat time.
Hey, I like that energy. You better bring it, baby.
Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Dynasty Warriors Origins. Koei Tecmo is finally back to tackle this series after Dynasty Warriors 9 back in 2018. But with that many titles in the series, will this one stand out or fall to the wayside? Let's start to go over the gameplay and find out. The gameplay of Dynasty Warriors Origins, at its core, follows much of what the series has done previously. You have several weapons at your disposal to dispatch enemies in battles, and in battles, be ready to be fighting on large battlefields with countless enemies. Alongside the weapons, you also have skills that you can equip 4 at a time to subdue crowds and break defenses of the tougher enemies. You also have a Muso ability, which is a release type ability that you must build up a gauge in order to use, and does great damage while staggering enemies. Altogether, the combat is flashy and satisfying, each battle flanked by the in-between segments where you are set to roam the map. On the overworld map, you can choose to go fight smaller side battles, complete side objectives, collect materials, or go back into town to rest at the inn. Inns are your spot to read letters divulging into the story, organize equipment, or craft gems to increase battle effectiveness. As for the story has you play as a nameless warrior with amnesia alongside the Romance of the Three Kingdoms timeline. The people of the land are suffering, and corrupt governments are exploiting them. The nameless protagonist takes a stand, joins a volunteer army, and helps fight against the corrupt rulers. Will the protagonist regain the memories of his mysterious past? But now the question still stands. Pause or repeat?
All right, we got to return to a legendary series that's been around for so long.
Forever.
But here's the thing. It costs $70, and I feel like after the last Dynasty Warriors game didn't do very well, they probably should have not made you buy this for $70 to kind of win back some favor in the eyes of people who played that last game. And this game's not perfect, so is it worth $70? We'll find out right now. What do you think about this game,
Yeah,
Chris?
you know, I feel like Dynasty Warriors Origins throws you into the chaos of ancient China's Three Kingdoms period, where the battles are big, the stakes are high, and the enemies come at you like, proving once again that personal space is so overrated, right, HenricK? Like, why settle for negotiations in foreign policy when we can button mash it out? I love it. I mean, you can play as a nameless hero with a serious case of amnesia, but the muscle memory from this guy is sharp enough to take down entire armies. I mean, sometimes when you dive too much into the context of a protagonist, it can kind of make you feel like, where are we going with this series? I feel like with Origins, I feel like that's the key word there, HenricK, where this is like a whole new a resubmission of this iconic franchise, and essentially
reboot.
saying we're starting all over again. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of things that they do really good too, because like I was saying, the last game wasn't really received very well. And this game goes back to the older formula of this series. And so the combat, that's really the focus. And the combat is great. I have a great time playing this game, just mowing down, hundreds of enemy troops. And
you almost want to turn on that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm feeling like the Disturbed song, 10,000 Fists in the Air. You gotta play that song while playing this game. Like, you're gonna feel the energy, especially from the Yellow Turban Rebellion to the Battle of Chibi. You'll lead allies in the tactical 1 versus 1,000. I wish it was 10,000, but we're not quite there yet in video games. But it clashes. That. To me, HenricK, it redefines the battlefield as far as the eye can see, unless you're like Sid the Sloth from Ice Age, if you know what I mean. He can kind of see it all.
Yeah, it does actually a really good job of immersing you into the battlefield, also making you feel like you're actually fighting alongside a bunch of other troops and, big character generals and everything. And it's just really, really hype. But then you get to the story. Yeah. And the story, while it is based on classical Chinese literature, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is a great story for the people who haven't really delved into that, because it's not a common thing to learn about in Western literature at all. It's a great story. And other Dynasty Warriors games have also touched this story. But here, it's just, I think they could have done a lot better, especially when
sometimes
it
doesn't help when you
acting.
have animation like in this game, like the nameless hero who has no facial expression, so you feel like you're in a golden eye.
That is
of
definitely
Nintendo
a problem.
64. It definitely does become that factor. I'm there with you on that one.
Yeah.
And the fact too, these mysterious long-haired man and the bearded hero, because everyone needs those epic nicknames to battle corrupt officials and save the oppressed. You know what I mean? It always feels like that. I mean, the village are desolate, just kind of like the characters that are in the game somewhat. But I mean, the core gameplay revolves around large forces, right? It's like a huge mobs of the soldiers with enough coordination to make a synchronized swimming team feel jealous. It feels like, you're at the mall, there's a flash mob, but they're armed and dangerous, right? They're ready to take them down, and you're going to need to build up, or disrupt that fighting strength. I love that mechanic in the game. So, if you don't like those TikTok dances, lash it out across the battlefield. Just view them as a flash mob. Just wailing it out.
Yeah, the combat is always going to be a great time. I actually would go as far as saying that the combat is fun enough to just roam around the map, do all the missions that come up as they come up, even if you already have maybe all the skill points that you need or want, because the combat is just that engaging that I was searching for more of the smaller battles to actually just engage in that in the first place before anything else. But it really is. It is a shame that the story holds it back in a sense because of how great that is.
I don't know if I quite vibe with you on that part because like I feel like the replayability is pretty strong in this game because you get to go off on those like 3 different timelines. Because as you progress through the chapters, you can go back and and see where the that story thread would go. So I think that's really, really cool. But like we kind of joked last week about yellow taping. Doesn't this game have it all over the battle area? I mean, you got the zones marked in blue or red. Is that really the kind of hand holding that we need?
I mean, I don't think that's entirely
that the anti-elitists widely.
I don't think that's
about.
Entirely the whole yellow paint or tape sort of thing in the same way.
You don't feel it that way,
Chris. This is supposed to be a tactical game. When it comes down to it, yeah, it's a lot of action.
But wouldn't the mystery be kind of fun to just jump in these areas?
I need to go here because they're losing over here. They need my help.
Don't you kind of feel like a little bit, though, they're kind of coddling us by thinking we're toddlers with the blue meaning that you're winning, and then the red indicates that, that area doesn't look too shabby. I mean, it would be kind of cool every once in a while to just jump into an area and be like, oh, shit, we are outnumbered. You know what I mean? I feel like that would kind of create a little bit more fun to it. Maybe that could be introduced in a hardcore mode. I don't know. But if the Zerg turns red, your army might retreat unless you boost their morale, right? So you need to bring in either reinforcement or what do you do to do that? I mean, that's where the gameplay is kind of cool, right? You get to take out enemies or capture bases to build the morale amongst your army that only get even more powerful. And if that wasn't enough pressure, you've got the eyes of the sacred bird. That is the magical ability to find, those hidden traps and sorcery. It's almost like, you're like a metal detector on the beach or you're in Google Maps for the war zones. I don't know, but it's like...
it makes you the pivotal point for these battles where, like, if you're not there, you're going to be... making that team lose, essentially. Like, if you don't go take care of these traps or this incense that's causing the sorcery, you're just not going to win, You're
exactly. And then there's the arsenal, right, HenricK? I mean, at first you start off with the swords, and then there's spears, to the gauntlets, to the crescent blades. I mean, mastering these weapons aren't just cool. I mean, they are essential to leveling up. So I find it really fun that, you can get shiny new gear in town or on the battlefield. Even the rare ones come with special traits. So there is that element of always wanting to constantly go back into the mesh and try out a different, weapon aesthetic, you know what I mean? And like, speaking of allies too, that is a kind of a very, very fun feature. Maybe, Nvidia AI NPC thing might want to, build upon or maybe work together as a studio to kind of, instead of PUBG ally, in my opinion, because I do find the companions a really fun element. These are some badass mofos, HenricK. They got those unique moves. I like how you get to switch into those characters and kind of use their abilities and then come back to the nameless hero. So I don't know, man. I love this. I felt like I was tagging in like a big brother in a WWE match, ready to finish off that boss fight. So I'm floored by this game. I had a blast playing this. I was kind of talking to you before we even kind of jumped on, kind of gave away maybe a little bit about what I was going to say, but I find this as a repeat. I find it'll be a lot of fun. I would like to see this be implemented more on an online match format. I don't know how that would work. Maybe 2 versus 2. Maybe you can go 1 versus 1 and you still got to control these 1,000, army NPCs. But I mean, I feel like there's something there. As much as gamers are rejecting live service games, trust me, we'll be talking about that later on in the show. I feel like there's certain games that can benefit from it. But then again, that is a conversation for another day. But I'm curious to hear from you, HenricK the Wreck. How are you vibing with Dynasty Warriors Origins?
So as I've already said, I'm not that big of a fan of the story in this game. But the combat was very great, and it did win me over with the combat more than anything else. So that is what makes it a repeat for me. Though I do agree with probably what a lot of people are going to say in regards to this game, where it might not feel like it's $70 worth for them.
But there's going to be a lot of post-launch game content, that's going to be coming.
Yeah, there's going to be stuff coming, and I do earnestly believe that this game is worth a repeat because it's just always going to be satisfying to run into the battlefield and, fight thousands of enemies and just feel like this strong, badass warrior.
Right, exactly. Or especially there's sometimes you're just vibing with your homies that are all hanging in the man cave, and then it's like, hey man, you want to play a sports game? Nah, but what the hell are we gonna do? We don't want to watch like reruns of Seinfeld or Family Guy or some shit. But do you want to go and button mash and go take on like 1,000 hordes? Like hell yeah, let's get it. So it's one of those kind of games where you can just kind of throw the controller back and forth to each other. Okay, it's your turn.
Which,
okay, I'll try.
Funny enough, is something that I remember doing at a sleepover many a time with the older games in this series. So.
Right. So I to me, this is like just a classic case of like modern arcade button mashing kind of stimulus that I'm getting from it. I love it a lot. So guys, we want to hear and girls, we want to hear from you. Are you vibing with this game? Is Dynasty Warriors Origins a pause to play something else, or a repeat for just tons of replayability? Let us know what's good, but we got more left here on Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. So HenricK the Wreck, are you ready to rock and roll?
Oh yeah. So let's talk about some news, all right?
What's good, listeners? Welcome to Patch Notes, where my co-host HenricK the Wreck and I discuss gaming news, industry talk, and so much more. Let's get it. While everyone's buzzing about TikTok possibly getting the boot in the US, I know some of us were relieved to have our beloved social media back into fruition, but there was a plot twist in the fine print. ByteDance, the other apps, are also on the chopping block. You might be wondering, what the hell is ByteDance? Well, ByteDance is the company that owns TikTok, right? So sure, we're talking about tools like CapCut that fall in line with ByteDance, but gamers were blindsided to find out that this also affects what now? Marvel Snap. Like, yeah, that was kind of a shocker to a lot of us. And so, the card battler you thought was safe in the hands of California studio Second Dinner has apparently been tangled in ByteDance digital drama. So it turns out ByteDance supposedly cut ties with Newverse, which was Marvel Snap's publisher, but somehow the web's still sticky. And so players were understandably furious with Second Dinner for not giving them a heads up or explaining how their hard-earned in-game purchases might disappear faster than Thanos could snap. Oh wait, no pun intended. Marvel Snap, right? Holy cow, we should have seen it from the game title this entire time. But this is the kicker though. Second Dinner didn't know either? Are we buying that though? I don't know. Because ByteDance ghosted them too. That's what they're claiming, as you can see from these tweets, with a very disgruntled gamer that's like, screw you, Ben. You are lying to us. And then you got a little bit of sentiment. He's like, hey, man, jump on your VPN. Everything's all good. Don't worry about it. Say that you're from Canada. But it's just so wild. So if you're wondering who to blame for this mess, maybe aim your Infinity Gauntlet a little higher. So gamers voiced their frustration with the following. So let's go ahead and jump into those comments. The first one that we got here is, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. Being snapped away from this reality and brought back at a resolution would be merciful. So dumb. And then we got another one that goes, oh my God, if League of Legends gets banned, there will be some very angry, unstable individuals leaving their homes. And let's not get too hasty now. So
and the reason why League of Legends is brought up here is because it was kind of a secondary thought in regards to Marvel Snap being affected. Whereas like, wait, if they can just take away this game that's published by a Chinese company, what would happen if they went after a company like Tencent, which actually owns League of Legends?
Right. And but also, too, you remember the U.S. Defense came after Tencent, which is a Chinese video game studio company, and said, you guys work with the Chinese military. And so if we're taking down TikTok, what does that mean for Tencent that owns 100% of Riot Games? They are the maker of League of Legends and Valorant. That would be crazy. Is League of Legends going to get snapped or get sold back to U.S. soil? And then a League player says, we can only hope. So some people find that as
League player line. Take it away from me before it ruins my life.
Like, please. And then you also got comments like this. Maybe it's time for Disney to think about being a game distributor again. Yeah, that would be kind of wild. I mean, you have to also take into account there's a Chinese studio that's been doing what everybody's been playing, Marvel Rivals. I mean, they aren't labeled as a Chinese military video game studio as of yet. But wouldn't that be wild? We're all hyped about this game. So let's go into another comment around Marvel Snap taking offline. So the U.S. will start banning Chinese company-owned apps? Question mark. That shit will hit the U.S. gotcha game community hard. And also, isn't Marvel Rivals made by a Chinese company? Yeah, there's
like you were just saying, yeah, it's NetEase that owns Marvel Rivals. So
yeah,
hey, if they were to go after that, I know a lot of people would be mad that they could no longer play as Sue Storm in her new skin that just came out.
You better knock it off. And am I the only one imagining the evolution of this being, quote, we're sorry to announce that insert game invested in by Tencent is temporarily suspended in the USA to protect the USA not supporting the One China policy. Please call your local senator and vote for XYZ presidential candidate to make sure we can restore service as soon as possible. Isn't that kind of already happening right now? The one guy who said TikTok's a threat when he was running his first time around is now saying, oh, no, it's great. Maybe because the algorithm's working in my favor? That wasn't my words. That was his words. And so, HenricK, sure, TikTok's the headline grabber, but who had Marvel Snap getting caught up in this whole TikTok drama? Were you just as shocked as well?
Oh, I was, because the moment that TikTok came down, actually my friend group, I have a couple friends who play Marvel Snap religiously. And we're texting, hey, yeah, TikTok just went down. And then one of them says, yo, Marvel Snap is also down. And they added one of my friends. And he was like, no. And then it didn't hit him entirely until he was going to go to bed, because he always plays that right before bed. He was like, man, I have nothing to do before I go to bed. It just feels so lonely now.
I know. We feel for you, that one true gamer. But, it is kind of a wild twist. I mean, obviously we know that ByteDance was the publisher of Marvel Snap. There was like somewhat of an ugly situation back in 2023 when ByteDance divested from its gaming Newverse subsidiary as part of what they call a restructure of its gaming business. But again, ByteDance supposedly divested from Newverse and Snap, but it's still tangled up in the web somehow. So I'm kind of wondering, I mean, I don't know, can you show that one scene again where we're showing that whole VPN Snap tweet? Because this was coming out from Blue Sky. Are we buying that they had zero idea about this? Because there are some rumors fluttering online that maybe Ben and the rest of the crew over here in the California studios knew that this was coming a year ago, and they were actually utilizing this ploy along with the TikTok ban, obviously, because it's all correlated together, to be like, you know what? Let's get enough young adolescents mad at their local or federal government, and put so much pressure on the incoming president that whatever you do, it will, you're going to feel the repercussions for years to come, because it's not just a social media company that's getting taken down. It's a multitude of Chinese companies that could potentially all get taken down, which a lot of us gamers have heavily invested on, and you start to think about even like Black Myth Wukong, who was right up there with the game of the year. What is that going to mean moving forward?
And there has been a bit of a renaissance when it comes to the games that are coming out of China, especially because a lot of the companies that have been actually making great games now, like Marvel Rivals, NetEase, they were just busy working with Blizzard for the longest time, not really doing their own big thing. Now they're doing that game. And Black Myth Wukong, they were doing, I believe, other smaller titles and like mobile games prior to Black Myth Wukong, if even anything at all. And now they're actually getting into these titles that are getting a lot of praise, a lot of recognition, so much so that they're getting awards in the Game Awards. And it's a bit of a renaissance now, too, because a lot of people are also claiming that, now kind of old argument of all the Western games are going woke and I don't want to buy them because of that. Whether it's that or the other, it means
I think it's beyond that, though.
A lot of great stuff coming out of that side of the world right now.
Yeah, I think it's beyond that, though, because there are other Chinese studios with big games here in the U.S., like Hoyo versus Genshin Impact. It's like one of the most popular games right now. So that makes a lot of like different games, including the most recently explosively popular game, Marvel Rivals, potentially next on the chopping block. And I mean, just to kind of put some context or, around this, because, when you got the U.S. Defense Department, believing that Tencent has ties to the Chinese military, even though Tencent has disputed that immediately upon release. You know, it's hard to understate just how hard it would be to extract that company from the video game industry in a way that would be, I mean, wouldn't be devastating, right? I mean, you were just referencing how, you know, Tencent owns 100% of Riot Games. Those are games like League of Legends and Valorant. Has anybody taken into account the significant stakes that Tencent has in Supercell? They're the maker of Clash of Clans and Clash Royale. Or what about grinding gear games? Aren't we all excited playing Path of Exile 2? What happens if you got locked out? Or what about the 29% of fully diluted shares of Epic Games, the maker of Fortnite, and the builder and licenser of the widely used Unreal Engine? You see how this could be a problem? Or what about the minority stakes in Ubisoft, Bluehole, Remedy, Platinum Games, and more? Wow, my head hurts. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just all about TikTok, and I don't really have a solution. I'm not going to pretend like I do, but like I'm, you know, just speaking all this out loud. Doesn't this sound like a headache for this new administration to have to figure out? Do you have faith that they can figure this out in 75 days? I mean, I find that the problem too. You know, you look at these, you know, congressmen and congresswomen that are really, really old. It's like,
they don't understand this whole industry.
That's the problem that I have with this. So it's like, do we have any faith that this can get resolved within 75 days? Or is this going to have to take like more like a year to figure this out? Or do we even have a year to figure this out? Or is it time to start, you know, backing away from some of these Chinese games?
If anything, this is actually a bit of a wake-up call for gamers that, you know, a lot of these being live service games, if you're investing money in it, any day these could just be taken offline. And it's not just Chinese games, but it is specifically Chinese games that we're looking at here, that anytime they could be just taken away. That's kind of a scary thought when you think about how much money people are investing in these games on microtransactions.
Very true. Wow. I think that's an excellent point to leave it at. So that's a very, very, very good point. But hey, HenricK, let's start to segue into the next topic of conversation, because I think this is a good segue.
Yeah, because we are talking about live service games, and Sony is out here canceling live service games like they're bad Tinder matches.
Oh, yes, they are.
Reportedly, they've axed 2 more, including a God of War multiplayer project, which I don't know how that would have worked. That was from Bluepoint.
I'm so happy they did that.
Yeah, it's kind of like you hear that and you're like, okay, thank you.
Oh, man, dude.
There was also some mystery game from Ben Studio. And what is the reason? Well, apparently, Concord, a live service flop, was so legendary, it taught them a masterclass in failure.
Yeah. It really
and has spooked Sony into rethinking their live titles. 12 of which that they had in their mind, and thinking, you know, maybe we shouldn't have that ambition.
Yeah, right.
Because we were successful with one, and that one was Helldivers 2.
That's right.
But maybe we aren't really going to get the magic with every single one.
That's very true.
But don't worry, because they're still charging ahead with at least one of them. Horizon Zero Dawn, it's live service game from Guerrilla Games, because, you know, if there's one thing we need, it's Alloy grinding for loot boxes.
Oh boy.
Doesn't that sound great, Chris?
No, not at all, but I would like to find it very, very promising, but I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are skeptic about that. But of course, gamers had thoughts over Sony's canceled live service games with the following comments.
Oh, yes, they are, HenricK. Let's dive right on into the mix. So the very first comment that we got here is, ain't no way they thought God of War would be a good live service game. And then one person found this gem from 2022 that said, Happy Holidays from Bluepoint Games. How did we all miss this? You know, I feel like I kind of remember it, but I feel like I missed this too. And the fact that we didn't catch the clue, you know, then again, you hinted at it. I mean, you don't find that it would have worked as a live service game, God of War?
You know, Sony doesn't have the greatest track record with live service games so far.
You just don't have any faith in that studio to make it happen.
And it might have easily just been a ploy to try to get people to buy microtransactions and really essentially sell them a storefront with a game that has just strapped on multiplayer with not much thought put into it.
Yeah, so very true. And if you look at Valhalla and the Mist level from the first game, I can see how they could create a game with the roguelike levels where you just constantly did the combat. They had enough characters too for a variety set of classes. I don't know if it would be good, but I could see where they'd go for it. And then one guy goes, as a spin-off for sure, not as a gas. And then guys like God as a service.
The problem too with that is if that's a title that they work on and it becomes successful enough that they make a ton of money, maybe they will never make another game
because single
they'll
player
just be pumping money into that instead. Do you want to have God of War not ever make another single player game? I don't think so.
No, I don't. I'd actually like them to revisit the old ways of traditional storytelling that they brought with the original trilogy of God of War. Not this route. But then again, we got another comment that says, wasn't the Ben Studio game super far into development, ? And it goes, God damn. I was just wondering earlier today what Ben Studio had been working on, since it's been so long since Days Gone. I love that game, by the way, came out, and we haven't heard anything since. Was figuring we must be due to hear about something soon. If this is entirely entirety of their work for the last 6 years, what an absolute waste of time and talent. Now that I'm thinking about it right here in the moment, remember that Ben Studios had a little bit of gripe with Astrobot and how they weren't vetted on like their character getting into Days Gone. I'm starting to wonder if there's a little bit more context to this. Maybe they knew that their game was going to get shut down after 6 years of development, and that's why they're just really, really bashing their heads in over Sony and whether they want to continue.
Really putting on that tinfoil hat there, Chris.
It is. It's a bit of a tinfoil hat moment, but I'm just speculating. Let's go to another comment from the article. It says, quote, the spokesperson said that neither studio would be shuttered. Band and Bluepoint are highly accomplished teams who are valued members of the PlayStation Studios family, and we're working closely with each studio to determine what are the next projects, end quote, the spokesperson said. But then we have another follow-up question comment that says, I am glad they aren't getting shuttered, but worried about a lot of layoffs. Honestly stumped how anyone could think a live service God of War game was a good idea. Edit. Honestly, a God of War spinoff about Atreus wouldn't have been dope, but a live service title, seriously? Still trying to see how. I totally agree with that edit comment. If you left Kratos immediately to go to the boy, no, it's a hard pass for me. I love the God of War, story and lore of all of it, but I don't think there would be enough interest in it. What do you think, Henrik?
Yeah, it's something that would not have been jiving with a lot of fans, and they definitely would lose fan, attention, and people wouldn't want to play it.
Yeah, like you wouldn't care to play as Freya either.
He isn't the name, but he is the face of God of War.
Yeah,
Get
exactly.
rid of Kratos, you no longer have God of War. You have.
But then again, we have The Witcher 4 coming out, and you're walking away from the main protagonist. So
it's a little bit of a different story in that, but I see what you're saying.
You get what I mean? But then again, we got another comment that says, imagine owning Bluepoint and having them devote their incredible talents to live service slop. And then Blueprint saved their reputation, unlike Rocksteady. Oh, too soon. Kill the Justice League. Yeah, wow. Oh man, that's a very, very sad tale. And then we got the last comment here that says, time to undo all the shit Jim Ryan put in place before leaving. Edit. Thank you to those pointing out Herman Holst is just as guilty. He set so many studios back years. He doesn't get enough shit. So there's a lot of people angry at Sony's leadership. But HenricK, did Concourse scare Sony so bad they're swiping left on live service games for good? I mean, clearly they wanted to go for 12. They're cutting back quite a bit, but they still feel like even with Horizon Forbidden West, being announced as getting its own movie, we know that Helldivers is also going to get one as well. That would probably be the only successful Sony live service game that they got at this time. But how are you vibing with all of this?
It's so crazy because Sony, just like all the other big publishers and studios right now, they're seeing the success of live service games and we want a bit of that. We want a piece of that pie. But they had one. And it was Destiny 2. It was their cash cow.
There you go.
And what do they do with Destiny 2? They say, you know what? Our story is done. We're not going to do any other big expansions. We're just going to do content drops. And what happens then? Well, of course, the player base doesn't like that because they're, so invested in this game that they've been playing for 10 years at this point.
Yeah, but doesn't
And
Sony still have an
all of a sudden
acquisition?
now, no more expansions?
But doesn't Sony still have an acquisition with Bungie? Because the last I recall, they're still working on that one game called Marathon, I believe. Someone can correct me in the chat.
That is going to be the next game that they work on.
Yeah, but like when you hear
a lot
games,
of people also are looking at that and saying, I don't know if I can trust Bungie to invest my time and money into this if they're going to do that to Destiny 2.
yeah, fair enough. Or, they're hoping to live off the studio name, the glory days of Halo, right? But when you do hear it being cross-platform, it does kind of make you wonder, like, oh gosh, are they going towards the live service route? Or do we want Bungie to go back to a single-player game? Who knows? But again, with Sony, this just joins the pile of other canceled live service projects, from The Last of Us Online to the Spider-Man The Great Web. Remember, that was supposed to be in Spider-Man 2. We got no DLCs, probably because they thought this was going to be the live service world that we were all going to grasp and be beloved, but clearly that wasn't the case. And it just kind of makes you wonder, though, HenricK, wow, them focusing years, Naughty Dog development, by the way, with The Last of Us Online before it was canceled. You feel like that we could have had Intergalactic or likely The Last of Us Part 3 delivered to us sooner than later. Or what about Spider-Man 2 without the Great Web? I mean, who knows whether any of that played a factor in, delays of other new gaming IP, which, I don't know how you can sustain a successful model continuing to progress in development and then continue to cancel after 6 years.
Yeah, but also, I mean, does every game need to have a live service model? I don't think so.
No,
I think a lot
agree.
of the titles that they canceled, if they had come out, they probably wouldn't have been successful. It would have been a waste of money anyways, even more so than it was already. Because when you look at, say The Last of Us, for example, I know that people were excited for it, but when you really think about a Last of Us live service, maybe that could work. That's the one that maybe could work. But a Spider-Man live service, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's true. I think because people got excited over that PvP, The Last of Us factions, but that wasn't really live service. That was more of a multiplayer spin amongst a single player game. But, I think you nailed it. I mean, also we were, one comment was teasing about Rocksteady, right? We know back then, Warner Brothers actually flew out across the pond to London to go visit them over there. And they were essentially look, we don't really care what kind of game that you're working on. You're going to be pushing forward with this live service notion that it seemed like a lot of people thought us gamers were going to, go forward with, and that was going to be the new frontier in gaming. But clearly that's not the case. And so, pulling back on a lot of their popular IP, I think is very, very telling. But then again, you're also, it's not quite a live service, but you're also getting, games like Elden Ring that kind of feel like they're doing the same thing with their upcoming standalone Night Rain co-op game. But then again, guys, I'm not saying it's a live service game, but it feels very, very similar. And maybe that's going to be kind of like the new push. Seeing, Elden Ring might be that test, whether hey, if you guys are vibing with this kind of style of gameplay, maybe we might consider starting to go towards this route and then expanding it further. But then again, it's hard to say at this moment. But
I mean, a bit of the difference with Elden Ring too, though, is that the studio From Software saw that there was a lot of people on PC modding in seamless co-op, because there is a co-op kind of in the base game of Elden Ring, but it isn't as fleshed out as people wanted it to be. So they made a mod where you could play the game with some other people from start to finish if you even really wanted to.
Because developers and publishers love a good mod.
Well, I mean, in this context, they actually saw it as oh, that's a really cool idea. And we see that you guys like this. So they actually said in response to people doing that, you know what, we'll think about actually adding co-op modes like this into next games, because it seems like people want that as an option, at least.
Yeah,
so this is probably their response to that, at least when it comes to Elden Ring on that side.
True. And, again, when you go towards those live service games, gamers have to understand it's much more expensive to make and much harder to sell gamers and, us players. So what are you guys vibing with this? Do you think this was a smart move to abandon that God of War? Or were you kind of like, there's a lot of free-to-play games out there. Why not try it? Or are you just like, no, thank the Lord. We're never going to have to see that into fruition. Let us know what's good. But hey, you want to go into the next topic, HenricK?
Yeah, let us know, Chris, what's going on with gaming recently. It's got a little bit of a rough patch, right?
Bro, tell me about it, because gaming lately, there's been a bit of a glimmer of hope, or at least dollar signs on the horizon, with Nintendo Switch 2 finally on the way and GTA 6 set to launch in 2025. The industry's pinning its hopes on Rockstar's next chaos simulator to save the day, because apparently developers and publishers are so hyped, they're crossing their fingers for GTA 6 to cost a cool $100. Yes, you heard that correctly. $100. You might be asking yourself, why? Well, they say to offset skyrocketing development costs and, of course, to give everyone else the green light to jack up their prices too, because nothing says industry turning point like turning your wallet inside out for a game about robbing banks and theft and robbery and quote-unquote grand theft auto. So gamers, of course, responded to the news with the following. So let's go ahead and dive into these comments. I'm really curious to know what people are saying. So the first one that we got here is, my backlog is looking better and better all the time. Not just that, but completely reducing the need for any form of GPU upgrade for the foreseeable future, since all the games are older and should run without issue. But don't you want to kind of progress and play the next new game? So people feel
Chris, like, when you're someone like me, I respond to this comment in a very meaningful way, because when I look at my Steam library, I've got like 600 games there. Granted, half of that I'm probably never going to play. Probably a little bit more than that, actually. But when I've recently gone through and organized my library, in the titles that I have any inkling of interest to even try, I'm still looking at like 200 games at least.
Yeah.
So I think I'm good. If I really wanted to, I could just play that for the foreseeable future, and I'd probably be okay.
Yeah, how can we survive, especially when they're pumping out new graphics cards that they want $2,000 for, and then the Switch 2 is rumored to be $400, and then what? You're gonna get a $400 device to play the next Zelda game for $100? Sorry, next. But then again, you got people who will pay $80 for GTA 6. People will not pay $80 for Flome Stars 2. That was a little stab towards Sony. Yeah. But yeah, that's the kind of thinking. If GTA 6 is as big and good as expected, it's probably worth my $80. If I had paid $80 for Baldur's Gate 3, I would have still been happy. If I had paid $80 for a KSPS2 or Company of Heroes 3, I would have been even more livid. I think that's the point. But then again, oh gosh, we'll save it for a little bit later. Then we got another comment that says, I am only buying maybe 1 or 2 full price games a year now. More than ever, I am holding out for sales. Yeah, I think that's the problem too. When you live in a world where this is like free-to-play gaming more than anything, especially for Gen Z and the upcoming generation. What do they call them? Gen A, Gen Beta?
Yeah,
wild,
Gen Beta.
Wild times in 2025. Like, do you imagine them paying or forking out $100 for a video game? And thinking
a lot of them probably can't even afford that if they're in high school, because they might not have a job. They're just going off their allowance.
Why? Are you saying there's no more cashiers? They're all self-checkout? No,
I mean, you can't get jobs like that as a high school, even now, or high schooler now, even, because everyone's just looking for someone who's not having to be at school half the day.
They'll never know the feeling of the little chit-chat with the cashier, at GameStop. They'll never know that feeling. When they switch to $80 to $100, the games will still be unoptimized to shit and buggy as F, and still require buying $60 to $100 in DLC to feel like a complete game. Yeah, that would... that's live service for you guys. But I'm still holding on to hope. And then funny of them to assume that GTA 6 is worth $100, their games will be too. And yeah, that's what I thought. This comment is following up on it. Like, I'll buy GTA for $100. I don't care, because I'll still be playing years later. Like, I'm still booting up Red Dead Redemption 2 after getting it day one. But other games, yeah. Good luck. I'm already drifting away from gaming. 90% of the slop out there ain't even worth the current full prices. Try me. Yep. And then the last comment that we got here is at $80, I would wait for a sale. At $100, I would set sail. Hey, laddie. Yeah, no, I think it's such a good point because it's like HenricK. So GTA 6 might cost $100, huh? Like, you know, I find this a great time for this topic because gamers dragged me last week on Pause or Repeat for my take on inflated pricing, and then now this drops. So should we start budgeting for games like they're a luxury vacations, or is Rockstar just testing us how far they can push us before we revolt? I'm super curious on how you're going to lead this conversation.
You know what? Whether or not you think that GTA 6 is worth $100, and maybe it is, I think it's a load of bull because it's not worth $100. And I'll tell you why. A game like GTA 6 is definitely going to have microtransactions in it, and they're going to make all their costs in development back from that. So why would it need to cost $100? It doesn't. And if it does cost $100, like a lot of these comments are saying, other games are then going to be like, oh, this is my green light to charge $100. Do you really want some of the games that we played even this year so far, or even last year, to cost $100, Chris? I don't think you do.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely
when you have
not.
things like Ubisoft coming out with games that a lot of people don't really like we'll say Star Wars Outlaws, for example, or even, you know, what, Call of Duty. Do you think Call of Duty would have been worth $100? I don't think so.
No, absolutely not. No, I think those are all very valid points. I have a theory about this. I feel like the game's not in overall won't be $100, but I do believe it's going to be worth $70, and they're going to implement the GTA Online experience as a separate DLC. That's how I feel like it's going to be. That's where it's going to be pushing into the $100 mark.
Stupid though, because they're going to be making all their money back from microtransactions.
Well, the only reason why I feel like that
theory charge extra for online just to get into play microtransactions?
Because people don't want to play the story mode. They're already very successful doing that with GTA 5 online. You know, you could buy the GTA 5 game, or you could just buy GTA Online. You could play Red Dead Redemption 2, or you could play Red Dead Online. So I feel like they're going to separate
not charge for the online then, because you'd get even more people to play the online then.
Yeah, I feel like some people might just say, I don't need to hear the story. I just want to jump into this whole, you know, world of, you know, jumping into this chaos simulator. I mean, analysts are predicting right now, HenricK, that it's going to get $1 billion in pre-orders alone. And the pre-orders haven't even started yet. So, and then take into account this, gamers, Take-Two were one of the first publishers to raise the default price of its game to $70 at the start of the current generation of consoles when things cost $60. So, yeah, I mean, it is kind of wild to see that, you know, the previous cost used to be like that. We understand that there's ballooning price of development with our newer games. I mean, we were just covering it. Remember, we were like, holy cow, Call of Duty is up there at $700 million when we originally thought The Last of Us Part 2 and Spider-Man 2 costed $200 to $300 million. We're like, I mean, these are blowing out massive, big budget movies. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane.
It would be really interesting to see the breakdown of where all the cost is going. Because if they keep saying, yeah, you know, development costs keep going up and up, let's look at the receipts. Let's see where that money is going and see if you could actually cut down any costs. Because I guarantee you they can.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we will never figure that out unless it comes into the court of law. You know what I mean?
That's where it would come into a breakdown. You're right.
Like how we found out with Call of Duty and that budget because of the Uvalde, you know, school shooting. But, you know, obviously we wouldn't want, you know, some premeditated murder coming in from, you know, some crazy lunatic gamer playing GTA 6. And we don't want to create that narrative all over again where it's like, oh, you know, video games creates killers. It's like, really, man, really? Dude, stop all this nonsense.
We've had enough of that already in, you know, even recent years, you know, even going all the way back to the 90s, though. So
yeah, exactly.
It's been an argument all the time.
So that's where we want to ask you, the gamers. Do you believe that Rockstar will make that push to drop Grand Theft Auto 6 at $100? And then the follow-up would be, are you willing to pay $100 for this next IP? Let us know what's good. But hey, HenricK, let's have some fun towards the end of the show. We always love doing this. Man, let's set it off.
Yeah, we're back in the Reddit trenches. This time, a gamer asks, anyone have a quote cozy game that definitely is not a cozy game? You know, like enjoying a stunning sunset right after leveling an entire village. It's wild how we admire the beauty of games while committing heinous acts in them. Gamers voice their thoughts with the following, because everyone has a game like this, I guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely. It's so freaking true. Let's dive right on into it. The first one that we got here is Frostpunk. There is something special in having a quote-unquote safe, warm space in a cold, brutal world, with a follow-up comment says, yeah, child labor is the way. Yeah, that I think he was just talking about how, like, visually it looks cool, but would you really want to live there? Like, I mean, I see those crazy fans, you know, in Philly and Buffalo getting excited, celebrating in the snow for their favorite football team. And I'm going, hell to the no. Oh, no, no, no. And then I see this and I'm like, yeah, it looks cool from the outside, but I don't know if I want to join along. What about yourself?
Yeah, you know, I've played Frostpunk before, and it's a stressful game, I will say.
Yeah, right. The next one they got here is, I think Dredge really hit the spot in that regard. Cozy angling game with eldritch horror. You know, I can't agree with this, HenricK, because I don't do well on boats. I just don't. You know,
so we
like,
actually did this game as a pause or repeat.
No, I know.
I had a great time with it.
No,
I do agree that this is
No, you're missing the point. That's not what I'm trying to say. We're trying to, like, I'm saying, like, if I wanted to be there, like, in real life, in the game of Dredge, I couldn't do it on the boat. You know what I mean? You know when, like, boats are still and they start swaying side to side?
Yeah.
I'm on the side of the boat yakking, okay? So, like, I don't find this
reminder
cozy.
to never go on a boat with Chris, I guess.
Never. That's why I find this not cozy. But if I'm viewing you like a bug in the corner, or if I'm like Zeus or God looking down on you in a third person mode, then yeah, maybe that might be kind of cool. That is my non-cozy game. But let's go into Valheim. Okay, I love chilling in my Meadowlands tower. Yeah, that's kind of a sleeper game you don't hear about too much.
Yeah, this is a cozy game to me also, I'd say, because, you know, there is something really very tranquil about just being in the rain, and you get to do that in this game.
Yeah, so true, man. And Red Dead 2, I could canter across the countryside forever, but I will not. Well, I wouldn't want to revisit that intro again. Oh my gosh. Isn't that like one of the worst intros of all times? I'm sorry. Fantastic game. It's not my favorite of all time, but oh gosh, that intro. It's oh gosh. The next one we got is Hades. It has fishing, so technically it's really is a cozy game. Like what?
I mean, so many games have fishing at this point. You know,
hey, you know, I find Fortnite to be a very cozy game because while everybody's battling it out, you know, I like to be fishing. Meet me at Loot Lake. But plus, after a run, you end up back home talking with the people that get friendlier and friendlier. There's a bar. There's your bed.
You go get to pet Cerberus, you know, if he's there.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And the last game that we got here is Oblivion. Yeah, there's rumors that there might be a potentially remastered in the works. That would be very, very exciting. But that world is still enchanting. Nearly 2 decades later, I've always said if I lived in a video game world, it would be Cyrodiil. Did I say that right?
Cyrodiil, yeah. It's also just uncanny because some of the conversations that these NPCs have with each other is just like, what is going on here?
I mean, it's like what the guy said, like in the following comment. There are a lot of people in the Skyrim camp and a lot of people in Morrowind camp, but Oblivion will always be the closest to my heart. And I mean, I think, yeah, I would be really curious to see what this game would look like with revitalized graphics and, you know, yeah, I mean, that would be quite a fantastic place to visit in real life. But then again, we are talking about those non-cozy, cozy games. And so, HenricK, I got to throw it to you. I mean, is it weird that my idea of a cozy game involves mass destruction and questionable morale choices, but like with great graphics? That's how I'm kind of vibing with right now. Like, I love a good Grand Theft Auto 5. I weirdly love to jump in there every once in a while, the GTA Online experience, just to go ahead and spin the wheel. You know what I mean?
You know, I think a game that you'd enjoy would probably be something like Prototype or Infamous. That sort of game, right? Yeah.
That would be really, really cool. Yeah, exactly. That's actually a really, really good choice. What are you kind of thinking it for as like a non-cozy, cozy game that you always like to kind of revisit?
I actually am going to say for this, the first Halo game, Halo Combat Evolved, there's just something very awesome about the atmosphere and the nostalgia, but the atmosphere of being on the Halo ring, it's all mysterious, And then you get to the 343 Guilty Spark mission, and everything just turns to horror
Anarchy.
all of a sudden.
Yeah,
You know?
right. Yeah, exactly. Or
And then you have the library right after that, which a lot of people don't like that mission, and myself included. But
yeah, right.
I can always just skip over that mission if anything.
yeah, exactly. Or like, people are getting even better and better nowadays with the mod community. And, I've even been seeing some clips online of Cyberpunk 2077 even looking even more crispier. And, that is, as much as like the first run through wasn't my favorite experience because I felt like the main storyline was so fast, and they don't really deviate you to try to go towards the side quest. You really have to go on your own will. But yeah, I mean, just jumping in that game's kind of cozy alone too, just driving around the city and even outside of it, lots of fun. But we want to know from you gamers, I mean, what is that non-cozy game that just involves, again, a lot of destruction and a lot of questionable morale choices, but you just like to sit within the world of that gaming space? Let us know what's good. But this has been such a fantastic show, and we can't thank you, the gamers, for always joining us live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because without your guys' support and girls, this show would not be possible. So this is my QR code to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell on my YouTube channel. So what are you waiting for? Scan your phone right on that pretty little thing. Hey, HenricK, kick it off.
Yeah, that's my YouTube channel QR code right there. Same old thing, all that Chris said. But hey, go comment over there. I'd love to see comments. I do respond to them. So if I'm doing something great, let me know.
Yeah, come on now. We always love your comments. And like I said, I'm always ready to battle test it with y'all, even my co-host, HenricK Direct. But we've had such a blast for today's show, and we hope that you guys come and see us again next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on YouTube, Twitch, and Meta. But hey, we'll see you around next time, fam. Peace.
See ya.